Hi guys. Today I want to talk about step 2 towards healing your trick. So in the first step, we talked about acceptance and how it's important for us to accept our situation, or to at least be willing to accept our situation, and our situation being that we have trick, in order to move on to the next phase, so to speak. So the first few steps in this process are going to be steps that are going to help us move to the next phase. Things like acceptance. And the thing that we're going to talk about today is understanding. Okay, things like acceptance, understanding, and really embracing our situation. Okay, so as I said, today we're going to be talking about understanding, and there are two aspects that we need to understand. So I'm going to talk about the first one. That's going to be a little bit more obvious, and that is understanding trichotillomania, understanding what that means or what that is as a whole, like in general, and also what that means for you personally. Okay, so as a whole, maybe we've done our research, or maybe we haven't. So if you haven't done your research already, I encourage you to maybe do like a quick Google search or something like that can give you a better idea of what it actually is. But because you're here, I'm assuming that you have already done your research. So as we know, trichotillomania is kind of categorized as a compulsive behavioral disorder, right? Sometimes it's referred to as a body-focused, repetitive behavior. Sometimes it's categorized as some sort of obsessive-compulsive behavior. Sometimes it's categorized as kind of like a coping mechanism for anxiety or stress or something like that. So it's up to you to kind of then form your own understanding of it. Like for me, I couldn't relate to some of those definitions just because, like, when I first developed trichotillomania, I hadn't gone through anything super stressful or traumatic or anything like that at the time. That's what I thought. And throughout my whole journey, that's what I thought. But later on, looking back and reflecting on that, I realize now that maybe there were some situations in my childhood that created some sort of anxiety or stress. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. So the first thing that you need to do is kind of form your own definition. Try to understand trick as best as you can. Try to understand it in a way, or define it in a way, where if you explained it to somebody else, they would hopefully be able to understand a little bit about what it is and how it affects you. Because that's going to also help you later on too, if you get questions asked, or if you're trying to have a conversation about it with your parents or your friends or family or loved ones who are kind of confused. They don't understand why you pull your hair out. This is going to help you be able to explain your situation a little bit better. And that's going to take a lot of the shame, or hopefully it's going to take a lot of the shame out of trichotillomania, because I guarantee you that probably every person who has trichotillomania, or close to 100% of the people who have trichotillomania, experience a lot of shame. And shame, as we know, is something that, it's a negative emotion. And when we surround something in negativity, it's going to keep us in that place, because we just can't shake that feeling of negativity. It kind of messes up our vibes, so to speak. Okay, so that's the first thing, is trying to understand, having a real understanding for what trichotillomania is, and what it means for you. Okay. The second thing that we need to try to understand is how our past might have or might be affecting our behaviors today. You know, a lot of people say, oh, don't reflect on the past, or don't think about the past, because the past is the past and you can't do anything to change it. And that's true. You can't do anything to change your past, and you shouldn't want to change your past. But your past is kind of like a tool. It's kind of something that you can use to reflect on, to help give you a better understanding of yourself as you are today. So oftentimes we've been taught to kind of bottle up our emotions, bottle up our feelings, kind of put some of these memories into remission, so, or to forget certain events that happened in our past. And some of us do. We successfully forget some disturbing or traumatic things that have happened to us, whether they're severely disturbing or not as upsetting as some events are. But being able to kind of reflect on those events that happened that could have contributed to why you developed trichotillomania in the first place is really going to help you understand where this behavior came from. And that's going to later on help you determine how you can treat that, because trichotillomania has come up differently for everyone. Everyone's experience with trichotillomania is different. There isn't a one-size-fits-all regimen or cure for this disorder. Everyone's pasts are different. Everyone's coping strategies are different. Everyone's families are different. Everyone's genetics are different. Everyone's DNA is different. And so it's really going to be up to you to do that reflecting work and try to, understand what might have happened before, how that could have affected you back then, and how that has carried into today, or how that had caused this to develop. So one thing that you can try to do, and I know it's not going to be easy, because revisiting our past is not an easy thing to do, depending on whether you had a good childhood or a not so great childhood. It's not always easy to revisit these moments. But one thing that you can do is to either meditate or journal for a few minutes. Really kind of put yourself back in those shoes of the time where you were starting to develop trichotillomania, and really try to understand what was happening at that time, what was going on in your family or in your home, at school. What were you feeling? What were you thinking? And I know for some of us that might be a long time ago, so it might be difficult to remember. And that's what I thought too. I developed trichotillomania when I was 6 years old. And so doing this exercise many, many years later, I was like, how am I going to really remember like how I was feeling? But if you, maybe you can take some pictures. Sometimes if you take some photos from, that year or so when you started, that can really help you connect back with that child or that former version of yourself, to try and get a real good image going of what your life was like back then. So once you have an image of what your life was like back then you can ask yourself, what did I need that I didn't have before? What did I need back then? What would have made my situation a little bit easier for me? And why was it so difficult for me? if you developed trichotillomania when you were a child, that means that there could have been something lacking for you. Maybe you didn't have the attention from your parents that you needed to create a safe, loving home. Or maybe you didn't feel valued as a child. You know, maybe you were trying to gain approval from your parents that you didn't get, or anything like that. Because as children, the two biggest things that we want or that we need when we are growing up, when we're children or babies, is we need safety and love. And if we don't feel safe, or if we don't feel loved and appreciated, then that would definitely create some kind of anxiety or some kind of imbalance in ourselves at that time. Of course, we're too young, we're too little to really understand that, but that's why we're here today. And then we're able to go back and try to start, putting these pieces of the puzzle together. That's going to help us understand who we are today and why we are here in this moment right now. And then that's going to help us get a bigger picture going as to how we can move forward into the next steps. Okay. So these two things are going to be important. Educating yourself on what trichotillomania is and understanding your past to get a bigger understanding of your present. And these things are going to hopefully help us to be able to diminish this victim mentality that we have going on. Of this why me, why did this happen to me, why can't I stop, why do I keep doing this to myself? Those are all victim beliefs, victim thoughts that come into our head. And as soon as we're able to get a bigger understanding of why this has occurred and why this is here now, even in the present, how can this situation serve me today? How can this make me stronger today? Then we'll be able to fully move on. We're able to let go of that victim and become empowered. Okay. All right, so that's all that I wanted to say for today. I'm hoping to get the next videos up soon. I know it's been a little bit of a jump between the last video and this video, but yeah, so hopefully I'll get those videos up soon. And if you want to subscribe to be notified when those are up, then please subscribe. And if you have any questions for me, please leave those in the comments or send me a direct message, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have, or even if you just need someone to talk to, I will gladly talk to you and be there for you. All right, so thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, guys.